Wish that I was on old Rocky Top down in the Tennessee hills. Ain't no smoggy smoke on Rocky Top, ain't no telephone bills. Once I had a girl on Rocky Top, half bear, the other half cat. Wild as a mink, but sweet as soda pop, I still dream about that. Rocky Top, you'll always be home, sweet home to me. Good old Rocky Top, Rocky Top, Tennessee. Rocky Top, Tennessee. Once two strangers climbed old Rocky Top, looking for a moonshine still. Strangers ain't come down from Rocky Top, reckon they never will. The corn won't grow at all on Rocky Top, dirt's too rocky by far. That's why all the folks on Rocky Top get their corn from a jar. Rocky Top, you'll always be home, sweet home to me. Good old Rocky Top, Rocky Top, Tennessee. Rocky Top, Tennessee. I've had years of cramped up city life, trapped like a duck in a pen. All I know is it's a pity life can't be simple again. Rocky Top, you'll always be home, sweet home to me. Good old Rocky Top, Rocky Top, Tennessee. Rocky Top, Tennessee. Rocky Top, Tennessee.
When I was a boy, I didn't know nothing. I didn't have a care in the world. I had innocence and ignorance of things I wish I still did not know. But no matter how far these songs take me, if my dreams come true or the heartaches break me, no matter where I make my bed, I long for you. Tennessee, Tennessee, I was born here and raised here, and I'll make my grave here its home. Tennessee. We've all got a story frozen in time, people and places, living and dying, heartbeats and breathing, just trying to make sense of it all. I am the second born of my mother and father. He's a lion-hearted man, she's a Jesus-loving woman, and no matter how far I roam, I always belong to Tennessee, Tennessee. I was born here and raised here, and I'll make my grave here its home. Tennessee.
much I lost. Oh yeah, you know that I lost my baby. That night they kept on playing that beautiful sinner she was. Oh yeah, I was dancing with
Good evening and greetings from Rocky Top. I hope everyone is doing well. I'm John Young, Director of Alumni Chapters at UT. We want to thank everyone for joining us and spending some time with us tonight for our annual Voltoberfest event. We hope that you and your families are staying safe and healthy. Under normal circumstances, we would be hosting this annual event in various cities across the state and Southeast. But since we are not currently hosting in-person events, we wanted to host a virtual event and invite alumni and friends from across the country. Tonight with us, we have 22 states represented, and that is just an awesome number to have. Today's event will feature a program led by Andrew Felty of Yee-Haw Brewing Company. If you have questions that you would like to ask Andrew throughout the event, please type them in either the chat section or the Q&A, and we will get to those as we go along and feature some of these beers. We challenge all alumni and friends of UT to do three things: be proud, be involved, and be invested. Be proud. Keep wearing your orange on Friday, on Big Orange Friday. We know that orange is a special color and it sticks out across the world. I can attest to that. I just got back from St. Lucia and there was plenty of power tees to be seen. Share your social media, share your story on social media. Share your story with friends and family across the country, and share all the great things that are happening at UT on social media. Be involved, stay involved with us. A lot of you all are doing this right now, virtually on this event. We have more virtual offerings than ever before with new programs like the recently launched Alumni Book Club, our checkerboard chat, and Facebook Live event series, and much, much more. Also, I don't know if you've noticed, but on Fridays before each football game, we hope you've checked out our new Countdown to Kickoff series, which will air live from 12:30 to 1 p.m. Eastern on multiple social media platforms, including our offices, Tennessee Athletics, etc. This is a 30-minute live free event, which is hosted by UT alumnus and former Vol wide receiver Jason Swain each Friday during the football season, and you don't want to miss it. Visit alumni.utk.edu/countdown for all the details. Guests who sign up in advance will be in attendance are entered to win an autographed football or an alumni prize pack, and we certainly hope you'll join us for that. We also hope that you've checked out our new redesigned website. It's alumni.utk.edu, and you can see more there. And then lastly, be invested. Gifts of any size make a significant impact. During these times, scholarships are having even more of an impact on our students and helping them decide if they can afford to go to college. Many of our students have lost their part-time jobs or have limited hours in scholarships and can be a deciding factor if they can attend at all or continue their time at UT. If you have the resources, we hope you'll continue to consider a gift to your local area alumni chapter scholarship to help recruit students from your city to UT. It doesn't matter if the gift is $5, $50, or $500. Gifts of all size make a significant impact. In addition, Big Orange Give, our University Day of Giving, is coming soon. So mark your calendars for Wednesday, November the 18th. This is a great opportunity to give back to the area of campus that means most to you, which could be your sorority, fraternity, or student organization, college, etc. We will have a variety of matches and challenges that can help you double your gift's impact by matching your donation dollar for dollar. And there's more information available at bigorangegive.utk.edu. Now, I'd like to take this time to introduce our special guest from Yee-Haw Brewing. Andrew Felty was born and raised in East Tennessee. He's been involved with the craft beverage industry for 8 years. He joined on with Yee-Haw Brewing in September of 2018 and then relocated to Greenville, South Carolina. Over the last 2 years, he's helped them oversee their sales of their beers in upstate South Carolina, Southwest Virginia, and parts of East Tennessee. Andrew, thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to hearing from you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be able to represent Yee-Haw Brewing Company and hang out with you guys and drink some beer. I feel kind of especially prepped for this because once the whole kind of shut down and stay at home recommendation came about, this was kind of the way that me and some of my friends were able to still get together, was to hop on a virtual call, whether it be on Zoom or FaceTime, and be able to have beers together and share in fellowship. So again, I really appreciate you guys having me out. We'll get this thing started with a Yee-Haw Dunkel. I think it's always great to be able to have a nice cold beer and then kind of get into talking about the beer, and then we can also talk about the brand itself of Yee-Haw Brewing. So if you've got your Dunkel available, I recommend going ahead and cracking it open and pouring it in your commemorative Voltoberfest 2020 glass. So Yee-Haw Brewing was founded in 2015 in Johnson City, Tennessee. We quickly came from a startup brewery to one of the fastest growing breweries in the southeastern United States. We now have distribution in several states, including most of Tennessee, Southwest Virginia, and the upstate of South Carolina. The original brewery is located in a train station that was built in the 1800s, which is a really fantastic location. And if you ever find yourself in East Tennessee and in Johnson City, I highly recommend coming by and checking it out and having a beer with us. It's kind of become one of the cornerstones for redevelopment of historic downtown Johnson City. Since then, Yee-Haw has expanded to 3 additional locations. In 2018, we opened up a tap room in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and we opened up a brew pub in Greenville, South Carolina. In 2019, we expanded into the Nashville market with a brewery distillery collaboration with Old Smoky Moonshine. At the Greenville location and at the Nashville location, we really focus on research and development and brewing really kind of one-off, unique, special products. While in Johnson City, we really focus on brewing a lot of our core products that are primarily used for distribution, such as our Dunkel. This beer is a beer that we have brewed since day one of Yee-Haw Brewing Company, and has very quickly became the kind of the backbone of Yee-Haw Brewing Company. This beer is really unique in the fact that really nobody in East Tennessee, much less kind of the southern part of the United States, was brewing a dark German lager really to the quality, quantity, and consistency that we were or that we are brewing it now. This beer is really fantastic. I personally kind of like to call it the gateway to the dark side, because as you can see, it's a very, very dark appearing beer. But you know, a lot of dark beers get the misconception of being really heavy. Well, our Dunkel is it's not heavy. It's actually very approachable. It's got some very nice light biscuity chocolate characteristics. It is a lager, which means that it is cold fermented. It takes several weeks to make this product. It's actually one of our longest length products to make, if you will. And it's a highly approachable beer, and I think that's part of the reason why people that have drank Yee-Haw beer since 2015 have fallen in love with this product. I'm gonna have a sip myself. One of my favorite things to do whenever I do beer tasting events is, and we have Dunkel, you get people that are walking up, and a lot of people are kind of like, I don't like dark beer. And again, they get that misconception that this beer is heavy, but really it's super approachable. It's very light, pairs incredibly well with food. I personally like to pair it with chili. It's a really great fall time beer. It's a really great football beer. But despite it really kind of showcasing itself here with this nice crispy football weather that we have going on, people drink it all year long, and it just remains a absolute favorite for everybody. So. Does anybody out there have any questions in particular, about this style of beer or about the brand? Let's see here. I think I saw a question come through on whether we would be distributing to Charlotte, and we get that question a lot. Right now, we're really kind of focusing in on our tap room areas and really trying to drive people to come and check out our various tap rooms. And Charlotte is not too far away from Greenville, South Carolina, and it's also not too far away from Johnson City. So I highly recommend people taking the trip over and coming out and checking out both of these unique locations that we have.
Andrew, it looks like we have a couple more. Do you sell the t-shirt you're wearing currently?
We do not. Funny story about this shirt. One of my buddies who has worked in the craft beer industry, he actually lives up in Northern Virginia now, kind of made a name for himself by doing some very unique beer merchandise, some really state-centric things. And this shirt, when I saw it a couple years back, I immediately fell in love with it and knew that was going to have to be a crucial part of my game day apparel, or my just in general beer drinking apparel.
There you go. Another question in the chat. Do you think you'll ever get over to Memphis and distribution?
Hopefully one day. Right now, again, there's been a lot of focus and a lot of effort on our Nashville location and being able to service this part of the state. But that is definitely an area of the state that we've talked about a lot, and really hope that one day we will be able to get some beer out there and round out our home state of Tennessee.
Great. Here's one. As someone who loves the Dunkel, what's another beer we should try?
Well, that's a fantastic question, especially if you're a fan of some of the malty or some of the darker beers that we have. We're actually about to lead into winter porter season. Our winter porter is a Baltic style porter. It's actually lagered just like our Dunkel. So while it is a little bit heavier, than the Dunkel, it's not as heavy per se as your typical porters and stouts out there. We also brew that beer with just a touch of vanilla. So you get this wonderful combination of kind of the sweetness up front and a little bit of like savory, almost smokiness on the tail end. And that's always been a real big favorite. Also, on the maltier side, our 80 Shilling has been a fantastic beer that we've brewed since day one and can be found most of the time in our tap rooms. It is a mild Scottish ale, a nice, rich and caramely, no hot bitterness to that beer at all. Also, we do brew a seasonal Oktoberfest. We are coming out of the Oktoberfest season. So if you see that beer out and about, make sure to grab it, because the next opportunity you get might be next year. But I think that we brew probably one of the better American Oktoberfest, and it's really fantastic.
For those of our participants, Andrew, who are out of your market or out of state even, and we have a lot of those, what is the ABV on the Dunkel?
It is 5.5%. So again, that also contributes to really the approachability of this beer. Not only in the sense that it's not really heavy in malt characteristic, despite it being a dark beer, but it's also very, very sessionable for being a nice lager.
Great.
Well, if we'd like to move on, I'm really looking forward to cracking this next one. Our next beer that we have is actually my personal favorite beer that we brew, and it is our Yee-Haw Kolsch. This is a very light, crisp, clean beer. You could refer to it maybe as beer flavored beer for some of you lighter beer drinkers out there. A Kolsch is a really cool style beer. It's originally founded in Cologne, Germany. And if any of you have ever been to Cologne to some of the beer cafes there, they really do this really cool style of service where you go in and your waiter gives you basically a coaster and just continuously brings you Kolsch and just marks it on your coaster, almost as if you were at a Brazilian steakhouse, until you turn that coaster upside down. So really the theme of this beer is being able to sit down and enjoy several of them. And that's something that kind of goes along with the theme of Yee-Haw Brewing Company. Is we're a brand that really likes to celebrate the enjoyable things in life. We really like to celebrate simplicity, and really like to just be a brand that can be enjoyed amongst friends. So I'm going to go ahead and crack open this Kolsch, which of course I'm very excited to do. So as you can tell from the color and clarity of this beer, I mean, it's just very light, crisp, and clean. It's one of a couple of the lighter beers that we actually have been focusing on over the last couple of years. along with the Kolsch making it into our core lineup. We also have a American style light lager called Yee-Haw Easy, which is a really fantastic beer. Just, I mean, even lighter than the Kolsch, maybe a little bit more approachable to some people that are trying to segue into the craft beer world. On top of that, we also brew a really fantastic beer called Yee-Haw Cerveza, which is a Mexican style lager. That beer is really neat in the sense that we also source Tennessee grown corn for that beer, which is then malted at a local maltster in Asheville, North Carolina called Riverbend Malt. And by malting the corn, it actually helps develop this kind of almost slightly roasty yet creamy backbone to the beer, while still staying very true to the style of being a nice, enjoyable Mexican style lager. So if you're looking for something, really on the easier side, or maybe a handful of beers that can help segue people into the craft segment, whether it be our Kolsch or whether it be our Yee-Haw Easy or our Yee-Haw Cerveza, you really can't go wrong with either three of those.
Great. You've been mentioning the Nashville location a lot, and our Nashville Alumni chapter has done a lot with you all and partnered with you on several events. Maybe talk about the tap room experience and what you all kind of provide as far as tastings, et cetera, at any of your locations.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll start specifically with the Nashville one because, with Nashville being a very big city, we really wanted to kind of have a proper way to be able to introduce the brand. And one of the ways that we were able to do that was by partnering with Old Smoky Moonshine. So if you ever come to the Nashville facility, you're able to do everything from moonshine tastings to be able to order pints of not only our core traditional Yee-Haw products, but some products that are really just brewed for that Nashville tap room and even on a very limited basis for distribution. We have a distillery on site. As well as a brewery on site. So if you're there during the day, sometimes going into the evening, you can view the guys at work. Really, you can go through and see the sour mash fermenting. You can see the guys running the mash through the still. You can catch our brewers, doing their thing, coming up with really unique recipes, such as like a strawberry milkshake IPA or a chocolate peanut butter stout. We also brewed a really cool collaboration with JFG Coffee. We brewed a coffee lager at that Nashville facility to help celebrate an anniversary for JFG Coffee. On top of that, we also have two really awesome food items there. You can get White Duck Taco, which is a really phenomenal partnership that we have. We also serve White Duck Taco at our Johnson City tap room, as well as Prince's Hot Chicken, which is what they claim is the OG of Nashville style hot chicken. And I don't know if anybody out there is kind of addicted to the heat, but it's every time that I'm in Nashville, I've got to get my hot chicken fix. And it's really fantastic that I can, go to our own tap room and be able to get some of the best hot chicken that's available in the city. Along with all of those things, the Nashville tap room itself is also very much an entertainment center. We have two massive screens, one outdoor, one indoor. It's very common for us to be featuring whatever the game of the week. We always have UT games on. We always have Tennessee Titans games on. Live music as well. We've actually just recently restarted having some live music out there, some socially distanced concerts, which is really exciting to see. And it's a really fantastic facility. So if you're ever in Nashville, I highly recommend going and checking it out. And the same goes for our other locations. Our Pigeon Forge tap room is in the heart of the island, which is one of the kind of main tourist attractions in Pigeon Forge. And it really is an oasis to come get some delicious craft beer at the Pigeon Forge tap room. You can very often not only find the core Yee-Haw beers, but you can also get a sneak peek at some of the beers that we've been brewing in Greenville, South Carolina, as well as Nashville, Tennessee. If you're ever in Sevier County, we highly recommend stopping in the island and stopping into Yee-Haw Brewing Company there. As I mentioned earlier in the first segment, you've got to love the authenticity of having a brewery in a train station that was built in the 1800s. So all the brickwork and all the wood on the ceilings is original, and we were able to fit in a 30-barrel brew system with a massive farm of 60-barrel fermenters, a gorgeous tap room, a great patio space with a fire pit, and of course some delicious White Duck Taco. And then here in Greenville, South Carolina, we are actually in the process of reopening our location down here. We have kind of gone through some renovations, created more of that event type atmosphere that we've really championed in Nashville. And we're also proud to announce that we have brought Prince's Hot Chicken down to Greenville, South Carolina for their first ever expansion outside of Nashville, Tennessee, which is really exciting.
Very cool. That's very exciting. I love Prince's, and I was just down at the Greenville location with our Lady Vols playing in the women's tournament pre-COVID. So a great location. I definitely would suggest going by there. You mentioned game day and the Vols. What's your favorite game day or tailgating beer?
You know, right now, honestly, it's the Yee-Haw Easy. It's honestly probably what I'll be drinking this weekend as hopefully we pull one out against Alabama. I'm for my sake, being a UT fan growing up as a child, the walls of my room were painted orange and white. So just like many of you all, I bleed UT football. But I have fortunately married into a family of Alabama fans. So nothing would make me happier than being able to see the look on my father-in-law's face if UT could pull off a victory. So I'll be drinking several Yee-Haw Easies and hopefully being able to rub one in at the end of the day.
I love it. I love it. Let's see. Other than consuming beer, what, if any, background did you have in beer prior to this role?
Yeah, so leading into working with Yee-Haw Brewery, I kind of got my start in really the beer festival realm. And I had some really good mentors along the way that actually helped me promote myself kind of in the role of lead organizer for several events. I helped champion events both in East Tennessee, in Kingsport, Bristol, Johnson City, the Tri-Cities, as well as Knoxville. We've also operated events in Asheville, North Carolina, and also out in Denver, Colorado. I have also worked on a couple different tourism projects, including helping start a local beer trail for East Tennessee and Southwest Virginia, which was called the Bruley Noted Beer Trail. It was a tourism-directed initiative on really helping highlight the boom of the craft beer industry. And early on, Yee-Haw Brewing played a role in that as well. After those experiences, I went on to help start Gypsy Circus Cider Company, which was the state of Tennessee's first ever commercial hard cidery based out of Kingsport, Tennessee. They actually just opened up a tap room in Knoxville. I'm a big fan of those guys, so I really highly recommend any of you alumni in Knoxville going and checking out the Gypsy Circus Barrel House. But I've always been a beer guy, and cider was great, but you have to follow your passion sometime. And I joined on with Yee-Haw Brewing Company because I was really excited to help again champion local beer from where I'm from. It's been really cool to be able to have those different perspectives from working on the event organizer side, working behind the scenes on tourism initiatives, and then also helping grow a brand new brand. I think kind of helps roll my experience into something kind of unique.
That's great. Let's see. We have some really good questions, but they're kind of all encompassing. So let's move to you have one more beer to do, and then
yeah, absolutely,
hit some of these probably.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the third beer that we are going to crack open is a Yee-Haw core beer that we are very happy with. It is our Yee-Haw IPA, and this beer really kind of stands the test of time in the sense that the IPA market is ever evolving in what people are chasing and what people are looking for. But really, our philosophy behind this IPA is having something that is really just approachable. Again, the theme of Yee-Haw Brewing Company is we want to have something that is approachable for all while making a really, really well-crafted product. And our IPA is not too bitter. Actually, it's not very bitter at all. We kind of call it a blend of the West Coast, East Coast style in the sense that we use a lot of West Coast hops. So you're going to get a lot of like citrusy notes. You're going to get a little bit of piney notes. It's got a nice sweet malt backbone, which again takes away from the bitterness of some traditional IPAs. And then additionally, we don't filter the beer. So we don't filter out any of that fresh hop flavor. So we get a really nice aromatic experience coming from this beer. So cheers, everybody.
Cheers. As you open that one and pour it, the next question just to be thinking about is, I guess for each of these beers, do you have some favorite food pairings that you do, whether that's grilling or not, or game day or not? But
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, the Dunkel just goes fantastic with really, really nice, savory foods, and even just like rich chocolate notes, like for nice big desserts or anything all the way down to sugar cookies. That nice biscuity characteristic really highlights itself. Another cool thing about the Dunkel, with it having everything from those chocolatey to biscuit notes, is it also complements spicy food really well and can really help balance out some really spicy chicken wings. The IPA, goes really, really well also with spicy food in the sense that it is an enhancer, if you will. So if you're looking for a beer to enhance some heat, or if you've got a nice, delicious burger loaded down with jalapenos, I recommend cranking out an IPA. And then the Kolsch really pairs well with some of your more funkier or tangier type of dishes. It's really interesting how food can really help bring the flavor out of certain beers out, and then in turn, the flavor of beer can help complement the food. I always highly recommend, if you're a fan of craft beer, always Google flavor pairings. You'll be really, really surprised in some of the things that you can pull out with craft beer, and cheese pairings are also a phenomenal way to do that as well. So don't think that charcuterie boards are just for wine. They're definitely for your flights of craft beer too.
it's good to know. I never thought about that. Let's see here. Can you discuss a little bit about how your distillery equipment works? This couple does some home brewing, and they just were wondering how different it is on a larger scale.
Yeah, which is a really great question. In Johnson City, we have a really awesome 4-vessel system to where we can mill in the malt. We can begin to extract the sugars. Then we can transfer it to the next vessel to hold at temperature, really let those proteins come to full circle, transfer to the next vessel for your boiling. And then we also have a 4th vessel for the whirlpool, which is also pretty cool because in Johnson City, it takes 2 batches of beer to fill one of our fermenters. And very often we are brewing 4 batches of beer throughout the day. So it really kind of starts like an assembly line, if you will. By the time that we're starting the finishing processes on batch 1, we're already very deep in the process of brewing batch 2. So again, what's been really, really beneficial for us has just been being able to utilize each step of the process along the way and pay really close attention to each step of the process, from milling and mashing in your beer to being able to get your Vorloff, get those proteins, get all those sugars utilized. From the boiling process, and then again with the whirlpool. That's also helped us a lot in our smaller breweries in Nashville and Greenville, as we've really gotten the opportunity to expand with some of these hazy IPAs. Being able to have that whirlpool kettle is kind of crucial, I feel like, on being able to get some of those late in the brew stages hop additions, especially there in the whirlpool, to get some of those aromatic hops and get some of that flavor locked in before you go into fermentation. And then, on the back end side too, we have really great bright tanks across the board. So post fermentation, we have an awesome filtration process. We run our production beers through a centrifuge, and then we filter everything except for the IPA essentially. And then we've got bright tanks that cool that beer down to basically like 32 degrees right before freezing, before we package all of our beer. And I'll tell you, there's nothing like being able to go into the brewery and grab a fresh can of beer straight off of our canning line. I mean, there's some days that you grab a can of Dunkel off of the canning line. It's got this like cold brew coffee characteristic to it, which is just almost unexplainable.
That sounds really good. That's my favorite. All right, let's see here. Wade from Nashville says, I have always thought the name Yee-Haw was very clever and creative and expresses the joy and humor around enjoying craft beer. Can you tell us a little bit about how the name of the brewery was conceived?
Yeah, so there's an urban legend out there that our founder Joe Baker and some of his friends were on a skiing trip, and this was about the time that they were considering names for what would eventually be Yee-Haw Brewery. And Joe is quite the adventurous guy. He does not say no to a crazy hike. He does not say no to really anything that involves some extreme physical activity. And on this particular skiing trip, they had gotten dropped into a black diamond mountain. They, in the joy of getting ready to go down, I don't know if somebody got pushed or somebody just said, well, heck with it. But they screamed out "Yee-Haw" as they were skiing down the mountain, and apparently that's where, at the bottom of that mountain is looking back on what had just happened, is where the birth of Yee-Haw Brewing came from. Now that's an urban legend. You'd have to ask Joe whether that's entirely true or not.
I'll be sure to ask him next time I see him. Let's see. Andrew, can you tell us a little bit more about the culture at Yee-Haw? The craft beer scene has grown so much, and fellow brewers seem to be also supportive of each other.
Yeah, I really can't speak enough to the amount of support, especially on a hyper local level, that I've been able to witness over my tenure in the brewing industry. While we all are competitors and we all do want people to drink our beer, there are just certain instances where collaboration is absolutely necessary. There's a small brewery in Johnson City that had a particular part that wasn't working, and our brewer Jay in Johnson City was more than happy to drive over there and take a look at it. Not only did he help him fix said part that had gone down, but he also looked at the way that his hosing was set up for his cleaning process and said, hey John, if you just switch a few things around, you can probably cut 45 minutes off of your end of day cleaning. And it's small things like that are absolutely crucial. Here in Greenville, South Carolina, one of the cool things that we're excited to be doing with the grand reopening of our facility is we're partnering with Green Man Brewery out of Asheville to do a Common Ground series. Joe, the owner of Yee-Haw, and Dennis, the owner of Green Man, have been longtime friends, and the Common Ground series is just kind of a highlight of their friendship and that collaborative spirit that I think is important for a lot of breweries. Brewing is a unique industry, whether you're a large brewery or whether you're a very small brewer with very humble beginnings as a home brewer. There's so much to learn and so much advice that we can give each other that can really just instantly change people's perspectives on and make just their workflow more productive.
Great. Let's see, we have a comment. Yee-Haw has done such a great job of staking its claim as East Tennessee's beer. It's everywhere and great for tourists and locals alike. We visited Anakeesta in Gatlinburg last week, and there was Yee-Haw. It's everywhere around UT and Knoxville. Talk about the pride you take in being an East Tennessee staple.
I'm really more proud of just the community around us, and that people have just enjoy our product so much. Again, going back to the Dunkel, like when we first started to brew that beer, we definitely didn't think that was going to be the beer that we could, really put our flag in the ground on. And just the people of East Tennessee just absolutely got behind it and supported that beer, as well as several of our other products. We wouldn't be where we are without the love that we've gotten. And being a company from East Tennessee, the Tri-Cities has been incredibly important for us, and so has Knoxville, Tennessee. The love and the reception that we've gotten from Knoxville since day one of sending our beer into that market has been absolutely incredible. And of course, we are extremely excited to be supportive of the UT Vols and of UT Knoxville and of the in general community. And that's something that we really, really love to highlight as we expand our distribution footprint and more people and more markets continue to enjoy our beer.
Great. Let's see. How long does beer generally stay good in cans versus bottles? Canned beer has become so much more popular in the past few years. Which do you prefer? Which is better for freshness?
That is a phenomenal question. I'm really glad that it was asked. I'm really big on cans. Us as a company, we're pretty big on cans. We originally bottled our beer. Cans not only completely block out any opportunity for light pollution, even all the way up to brown bottles. You still have a potential for light pollution if the beer is left out. But the technology with canning, and I was actually just having this discussion with somebody yesterday, the technology with canning has come so far, literally just within the past 10 years, on being able to maintain carbonation, being able to preserve freshness. It's really, really incredible. So I'm all for canned beer as a consumer. Also, aluminum is much more recyclable. It's better for the environment versus the glass bottles. I know that that's kind of one of the great debates. There's big beers out there that both bottle and can their beer, and people will argue that one tastes better versus another. I'm not so sure that that's true. I think it really just boils down to said breweries, packaging processes and their commitment to brewing and packaging very stable beer. But cans are the way to go, in my opinion. And then as far as the freshness, I'm a big advocate. No matter what the beer is, you should always drink it fresh. An IPA is going to degrade faster than a higher alcohol maltier beer. And there are some beers in the world that you could age, if you will, like fine wines. But I'm a major advocate that any beer, whether it's in bottles or cans, you should just drink it fresh.
Amen to that. Let's see. You all have really seemed to differentiate yourself by breaking into the distribution game pretty quickly. Is there something that you feel really helped you or catapulted you into that transition?
I really just think it's our, in general, approachability to making beers that can be approached by everybody. We're really proud to be able to make beers that really kind of bring people into the craft beer market, and also beers that you can enjoy more of. I mean, sessionability is very important, whether you're drinking a Yee-Haw Cerveza or a Yee-Haw Kolsch, or whether you're drinking a Dunkel or an IPA. We want you to be able to enjoy that beer. And then we also want you to be able to enjoy the next beer. And, again, I think it just goes along with the brand philosophy of Yee-Haw Brewing Company, which is to, celebrate the excitement in life, but also celebrate simplicity. And again, speaking to the distribution footprint, I mean, we've had some really amazing partners out there. There's been some really phenomenal bars and restaurants that have been really excited to carry our product, and there's been some really amazing companies such as Food City and Kroger that have been really excited to carry Yee-Haw brands. And we're very thankful of those relationships that we've built over the years.
That's great. Speaking of partnerships, talk a little bit about the partnership that you all had with Coach Fulmer and the Honey Blonde Ale that you all did.
Oh yeah, so that's a really exciting beer that we've brewed a couple times now. Coach Fulmer has a passion in beekeeping. I'm not sure whether it was his daughter or his granddaughter that helped aid in that passion, but I guess Coach Fulmer and Joe had a conversation about brewing a beer and really wanting to utilize some of Coach Fulmer's honey in that beer. And we brewed a delicious blonde ale with a really nice kind of biscuity backbone to it, and added Coach Fulmer's honey to the brewing process and to the fermentation process. And it just really created this amazing, like savory, biscuity, but still super light beer. And we've gotten to feature that beer on a couple of different occasions. We've gotten to do some really cool events. We did some amazing fundraisers for some bee conservation. I personally last year did a tailgate actually at East Tennessee State University featuring the Fulmer beer. And Fulmer's got a special connection with helping restart the football program there at ETSU. So that was a great fundraiser that we did for the bee sanctuaries.
I just think that's so neat. It was a great beer too. You talked a little bit about beer festivals earlier. With those being on hold, what are some that we should look forward to in the coming spring, summer?
I think that's still a big unknown. We're not exactly sure what the next couple months are gonna look like as far as it comes to different events. What I would say is look forward to seeing what new beer is on draft at your local bars and restaurants, or even in our tap rooms. The best ways that you can support your local brewery is by going out and drinking draft beer, and definitely paying attention to what's new, and being willing to try it out, being willing to expand your horizons, which was always kind of what beer festivals were good for. Not only would a brewery have a classic, not only would we always have something like Dunkel at a beer festival to transition people to the dark side, if you will, but we also love being able to showcase a rarity, whether it's our Velvet Charmer, our Imperial Scotch Ale, or our Big Hoppa double IPA. And, I think that a lot of breweries have transitioned to just being able to really highlight those beers in the tap room. So, like I said, come out to one of our 4 tap rooms, and you're guaranteed to get one of those specialty beers that previously you might have only gotten at these beer events.
Hopefully this isn't off limits. And I know, for me, the place to go to try new breweries and things are those beer festivals or events. But are there any non-Yee-Haw craft breweries in the Southeast that excite you, or are doing something different or unique?
Yeah, I feel very privileged because I've gotten to travel all over the Southeast and try different beers. I've got great relationships with different breweries. There's a lot of breweries in Asheville that really excite me. Green Man is one of them. They're doing some phenomenal things. Burial is doing some phenomenal things. But for me, what it comes down to is any brewery that I go into that has a Pilsner or a Kolsch on tap, or a delicious West Coast IPA, I'm all game for. I mean, I've always, prided myself on, I love Yee-Haw beer, but I love beer in general. So I'm always excited to go out and try other people's beers. I'm glad that now it seems like we're getting back to a place to where we can go out and do those types of things. So, it's really hard for me to pin down one specific brewery that's doing things that excite me, when there's just really so much good things going on across the Southeast in general.
Great. Let's see here. You talk about partnership with Food City, et cetera, and that, I'm sure that's really been great for you all. Someone here in Newport, Jack from Newport, is asking, there's been talk about a distribution center potentially being in that area. Is there any credence to that?
Right now we're definitely focusing on the areas that we've have open. Our main point of distribution comes out of our Johnson City brewery, and right now their focus is cranking out the core beers, cranking out the Dunkel and the Kolsch, the Easy, the IPA, and as well as a couple of other favorites that we like to scale up.
Great, thank you so much. Let's see. This is from John in Knoxville. Could you give us a little background on the Yee-Haw 80?
Yeah, so the 80 was also one of our core 4 beers that we brewed. So the 80 is called 80 shilling, and historically, the term shilling, obviously that's a type of currency, was used to classify basically the strength of the beer. So if you can picture yourself in the old world Scottish days, the 80 was kind of more of the worker man's beer. It was lower in alcohol. It was extremely approachable. It was the type of beer that if you went to a local pub, or, if you were hosting a family dinner event, that's what you would be tapping a cask of. Our 80 is around 5% alcohol. It is by alcohol one of the lighter beers that we brew. And again, it's very malt forward. It's very caramely. It's got a little bit of kind of this toffee note to it. Again, fairly biscuity from that malt backbone. No hop characteristic at all. And it's been a local favorite for some. There are people out there that live and die by the 80. So much so that it really surprises me sometimes that the 80 hasn't done as well as the Dunkel over the years, because trust me, there are 80 drinkers out there that's the beer they have latched onto. And it's also, it's a fantastic amber style ale. It's a really good again, segue beer into the craft beer category, especially if you're used to drinking some of those heavier domestic beers, or maybe even if you were a fan of Yingling. Actually, my dad growing up was a massive Yingling fan, and when I brought 80 to the house, it almost all but switched him.
That's awesome. Let's see here. I guess going off that note, for the novice beer drinker, what should that person be looking for when seeing ABV levels? Can you talk about what that means, and
Yeah,
maybe
I mean,
even touch on IBUs too?
Yeah, so ABV, alcohol by volume, for the novice beer drinker, always start light and work your way up. The worst thing that could happen is you grab a big imperial stout off the shelf, unless you're a whiskey drinker, and that end up kind of turning you away. So I always recommend start on the lighter side and branch out, but it also kind of depends too. What your drinking preference is. If you're a wine drinker, I recommend maybe trying some sours. There are a lot of similarities between the way that wine is made and the way that beer sours are made. But my preference is always kind of start light, find the flavors that you like, and then work your way up. As far as IBUs, that stands for International Bitterness Unit, and that really comes to the forefront when you're talking about hops and IPAs. A couple of years ago, the focus really was, how bitter could you make your beer? These IPA brewers were really trying to make these super pungent, super tropical, super hoppy beers that were very, very bitter. And then a couple of years ago, it kind of swung in the other direction to these hazy IPAs, which are not very bitter. They're unfiltered. They show more of the aromatics and some of the kind of tropical fruit flavors of the hops versus the intense bitterness that you can get from the hops. So, if you're somebody that has never really gotten into IPAs, but you really kind of like the smell of IPAs, if you will, I would say look into the hazy IPA category and kind of stay away from the higher IBUs. At the same time, if you're somebody that likes really strong tasting stuff, and you're not afraid of kind of the dankness, kind of the pungentness that can come with some IPAs, look for your high IBU West Coast style IPAs. We offer one called Big Hoppa. It's not super big in IBUs. I believe it sits right around 60, which is pretty reasonable for a double IPA, but it's an 8.5%. It's got a great malt backbone, but it is a very, very hoppy double IPA that in some cases goes down a little bit too easily.
That's great. Sticking with the IPA topic, can you talk about fresh hop IPAs versus the standard dry hop, and what has made IPAs so popular the last few years?
Yeah, so a fresh hop IPA is kind of a really unique type of IPA. We're literally during hop harvest, which we actually just a couple weeks ago have kind of entered the end of hop harvest season for where hops grow in this country, primarily in the Pacific Northwest. They will partner with brewers and pull the hops off the vine, and then within 24 hours get those hops to a brewery, and then they brew the beer with the fresh hops. Versus when you harvest hops, you typically either dry them, you kiln them, you can pelletize them to help kind of compress the hops together to get more hop flavor, more impact out of the hops. So that's what a fresh hop is. Versus dry hopping is you take that traditional method of dried, kilned, pelletized, even compressed into a powder of hop, and you add it into the beer during the fermentation process, which is a really traditional method. I mean, a lot of beers are quote unquote dry hopped. Even IPAs are, not just IPAs are dry hopped. There are many other ales or even lagers that you would utilize dry hopping just to get that extra aroma. I think IPAs really took off specifically in this country because when we really understood what hops were, we found out that in the Pacific Northwest and in the United States, the terroir of this country produced hops that were unlike anything that had really ever been seen before in traditional European brewing. And then that has been kind of magnified by some of the hop varieties that we're finding out of New Zealand and Australia. And, I talked about earlier the difference between the West Coast and the hazy IPA, the East Coast IPA. everything in the craft beer industry is kind of like a pendulum, if you will. And where a couple of years ago it was an arms race to brew the clearest yet most bitter, pungent IPA, that pendulum has now swung in the opposite direction, and now people are trying to brew the most unfiltered, just full-bodied, but nothing but just like biting into a raw mango type of IPA. And it's what consumers are looking for here in this country right now. The three main beer categories that are driving craft beer, if you will, are IPAs, whether it's a West Coast or an East Coast IPA, sour beer, and then good old flavored light beer, your pilsners and your traditional lagers. Of course, that's where we've seen a lot of recent success with our Yee-Haw Cerveza and our Yee-Haw Easy. It's always funny. Consumers change their minds and trends change, but over the last couple of years, there's been that balance between the different styles of IPAs, the different styles of sour beers that are out there, which there are many. We could have an entire other Vol alumni chat over sour beer. And then, of course, just getting back to the roots of brewing good traditional light beers.
That's awesome. It looks like we have maybe a couple more questions and a final comment, and then we'll be done. Will the collaboration beer that you mentioned, the Common Ground series, will that be distributed or just available in the Greenville tap room or other tap rooms? Or
so for right now, the first beer that we just brewed, which, speaking of IPAs, it was a hazy IPA with three very awesome hops, Citra, Eldorado, and Strata hops. It's currently just available in Asheville at the Green Man Tap Room, and will be just available here in Greenville, South Carolina at our Greenville location. And right now we kind of view that as an ever evolving series. We're going to rotate between brewing that beer in Greenville and in Asheville. It won't stick to just one style. I can already tell the group of people here that we have discussions right now of brewing a low-cal IPA. We have discussions of brewing an Italian style Pilsner, which is basically a dry hop Pilsner. And we've got discussions of maybe brewing a barley wine, which is a very malt forward strong ale, probably about 10 to 11% alcohol. So it is a series that will always be ever evolving. And who knows what we end up doing with it, whether we end up being able to get some kegs up into our other Tennessee tap rooms, or maybe letting some kegs sneak out into distribution. Or maybe even packaging the beer in the future. I think that that's one of the kind of cooler new projects that we've gotten involved with that really the sky could be the limit on. And I really hope that we can expand that into something that can get in the hands of more consumers.
That's great. All right, 'tis the season. What are your thoughts on pumpkin beers and holiday themed ales?
All right, well, so I like creativity in beer. Okay, so one of my favorite beers a couple of years ago for the holidays, Sam Adams did a gingerbread stout. Thought that was great. I'm a big fan of putting different flavors in beer. While I do like the traditional German style of brewing, if you want to put vanilla and graham crackers and cocoa nibs in your beer, if it tastes good, you should. I mean, I'll probably try it. I am not necessarily a fan of pumpkin beers. I think that's just a niche. While I do say that I drink all craft beers, there are two types of beers personally that I don't necessarily go for, and that's pumpkin beers and that's smoked beers, or Rauch beers, if you will. However, I will say this: New Belgium not too long ago did an atomic pumpkin beer where it was pumpkin and habanero peppers. And that was pretty good.
That sounds right up my alley. I guess I'll finish with this. There was something in the chat. Amy from Knoxville said, "Thank you so much for your time this evening. Your passion for the craft beer industry is evident and contagious. We appreciate you."
Thank you, Amy.
And then lastly, and I'll echo Jason. Jason is our chapter president in Nashville. He said, "Thank you so much to Yee-Haw Brewing for this evening. This has been fantastic, and thank you all for what you do to support UT and our local alumni chapters." So with that, I'll just echo those sentiments. We are so appreciative of you for doing this and agreeing to do it, and for Yee-Haw and partnering with us on this event and many others. And just really appreciate you taking the time to do this. So thank you so much, and go Vols.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. It was really a honor to be able to come out and do this in such a strange year. And be able to talk beer. You know, without the beer festivals and without the events, I haven't really gotten to properly have this avenue this year to be able to talk about craft beer. And I would say, you know, for all of those that got to enjoy these 3 beers with us, thank you so much for cracking them open. I hope you enjoyed all 3, or at least hope one of the 3 ends up being a new favorite. And for those that didn't have access to our beers, come home to East Tennessee. We're waiting for you. The beer's cold. So go Vols.